training, and then you click on. You took Tempest Fusion.
No, I didn't.
Well, you did.
No, it was on Tempest Fusion, so I took it on.
Okay, sorry.
No, that was what was in there. Flatbread. Sorry, and you said you picked.
Now you've got Flatwood up there. Now you go to training.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
So let's set up.
No.
Without starting.
Yeah. No, so you start typing. You start. It's here, like.
Cleaned up, right? Right.
Oh, it just crashed. It did.
I don't know why it just Zoom is jumping back and forth. Riders. YouTube Live.
Wait, I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning. On l'aide est équipé, hein? C'est pas. Non, c'est correct.
Linda looks like she's on the phone.
Wow. There's a lot of action going on now.
Morning.
All right. We have a friendly little visitor.
Hey.
Hello.
I wanted to say hello to everybody. Now, I had to mute a lot of you guys to make this work. So if you want to say something, I'll have to unmute you.
Oh, we can unmute ourselves as well.
Yeah,
Hello,
or
babe.
you can unmute yourselves if you guys have something to say, just so that the video doesn't bounce around too much between different people. So there
Okay.
you go.
Good morning, baby Belle.
Hi, baby Belle.
Good morning, baby Belle.
Do you see the butcher? Do you see the master pain? Do you see Paulo and Sister Love? Sister Love is with us, folks. Brother Love's sister is riding with Paulo. And what we have is that we have Guillaume riding with us. We have Big Nick and J Train. We have Sugar Sammy. We have Brendan JF. We have Mean Gene. We have the Target Man and Cindy and Miss Piggy and the Professor. Amazing. So I'm just going to wait a little bit longer before we start this. Okay, so Baby Bell's got to go now. So we're just going to wait a little bit longer before we start this. You see, I got a countdown timer trying to start this about 10 minutes after 9. If we see that everybody's joined in by about 9:05, we can get it started a little bit earlier.
Non, c'est pas commencé.
Oh, we have Olivier with Miss Piggy and the Professor. And someone let Dennis in here. That must have been an accident.
Fait que ça, c'est Alex. Ça connaît pas?
Hi, Mark. I'm connected also. It's Cyril speaking.
Oh, Cyril. How are you, Cyril?
Fine, fine, fine. I did my racing this morning, so I'm going to look to the other ones.
Okay, fantastic.
Hi, everybody. Good class.
So, Sugar Sammy, how are you doing? I see you're ready to go.
I'm doing great.
Ouais, il a
You
dit
like
ça
my
quand
new
on dit,
look? You want me to raise it here?
It's a good look for you, Sugar Sammy. And then if you choose to shave it off, you got to keep the
Merci.
mustache. So you look
I
like
will keep it.
All right, now we can see Cyril's video on there too. We also have Alexis. Alexis is on the call too, and she's going to help keep everything coordinated here. And we're also on YouTube Live, so we'll see if anybody joins us.
Just people disconnect. Oh no.
Hey, Sandman.
The Sandman has joined in.
Yeah.
Look at Dennis.
Hi, Sandman.
Hey guys.
Are you putting your shirt on, Sandman? It's gonna get too hot.
I'm gonna take it off in a minute. It's cold in my basement.
Oh yeah, you better turn it up to 40 degrees down there, Sandman.
Look at the hair. I don't have time to get a haircut.
I was gonna say you're not looking as good as usual, Sandman, but you know.
Thanks. Way to boost my morale in the morning, Mark. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning.
So a lot of people's mics are muted, but please feel free to unmute yourself if you have if you'd like to say something.
What are we doing?
So today we're going to be doing the workout number 7, the Staminator. You guys will see the workout passing on the screen behind me here, and you can load it up on your device at home as well. And Cindy, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, Mark. It's good to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Yes.
Is the Target Man going to join us as well, or you guys only have one bite?
No, yeah, we have one tack. So
I'm
one
glad
tack.
you were
So
prioritized for
unfortunately,
this.
of
I
course.
think that was a good choice.
Usually, he always prioritizes himself. So
Yeah. Fantastic. So, does everybody have the workout loaded up, or everyone who was going to load up the workout is loaded up?
yeah.
But we don't start it right now, do we?
What was that, Sandman?
Should we start the workout now?
No, just so we're going to get started in just a moment. You guys can see the countdown behind me. I'm going to adjust the countdown time.
9, 8, 6, 5, 8, 9, 9, 8, 3.
Okay, so we're gonna get started in about 2 minutes so that you guys can try to get everything dialed in terms of your timing. And we have some others joining in here too. The tank has joined us. How are you, the tank?
I just woke up.
Oh yeah, you sleep in these days now.
Yes, sir.
Well, thanks for joining in the tank. You get to see some real action here.
Yes, sir.
So just by show of hands, for those of you whose mics are muted, how many of you guys are using Zwift for this?
Swift.
Zwift. And how many of you guys are using Trainer Road? And how many of you lucky ones are using CPX? We have 2 lucky users using CPX, Paulo and Sister Love. All right, guys, so we're going to get started in just a minute. So make sure that you got everything loaded up so that you're ready to go. And then once we get started, I'll tell you about the workout that we're going to be doing today. And I'll tell you about some other stuff that we got coming down the pipe for you guys. Good. I'm glad JF's getting back on the bike. All right, guys, so we're getting started in 30 seconds. So those of you guys that are on Zwift, as you do the 3, 2, 1 countdown, just try to time it to start pedaling when the timer gets to 0, and then your workout will be really well coordinated with the timer that we have here. Okay, guys, so we're getting started in 10 seconds with our first ever PowerWatts at Home live session. So here we go, guys. We are underway. And I'm just going to make sure I can see the YouTube chat in case anybody asks some questions. All right, guys. So here we are underway with PowerWatts home workout number 7, the Staminator. In today's workout, we're going to be focusing predominantly on endurance development. Those of you guys that have been following along with the PowerWatts home program thus far may have noticed that the last few workouts were fairly intense. Miss Piggy sent me a little message after doing lucky number 7 that it was a pretty spicy one. And that was workout number 5. Workout number 6 was rep it out, 10 times 30-second effort. Dennis, I saw you did that one, so I hope you'll be participating in our 10 times 30-second challenge so you can impress the world with your 30-second power output. So that was another fairly challenging anaerobically oriented workout. So what we're going to do today, we're going to focus a little bit more on endurance development with powers that are predominantly under 100%, with the exception of 2 climbing efforts that are going to come a little bit later in the workout. We're going to be playing around with the feeling of riding at a steady power with a variable cadence, or riding with a variable power at a steady cadence, so you guys can compare for yourself how that feels, which one you might find easier, which one you might find harder. Then we're going to be doing some simulated climbs. If you guys look at the workout profile, the second main drill that you guys are looking at, it has a little spike and then a lower power, a little spike, a lower power. We're going to simulate going up hills on that one, where you guys are going to have climbs that get progressively longer and progressively more intense. And in between those climbs, you guys are going to ride at 70% at 100 RPM or a little bit more to spin the legs between the climbs. That way you guys practice going from a low cadence climbing condition to a higher cadence condition, spinning the legs in between. And then our final drill is something that we're going to do for fun. This is something we do often at PowerWatts. Oh, we have Samtastic that just joined in. Welcome, Samtastic. So we have the last drill, something we practice a lot at PowerWatts. It's a little bit harder to practice at home, but now that I can see all of you guys, I'll make sure that no one cheats on it. We're going to be doing efforts of 90 seconds or 2 minutes, where you guys have 1 minute to settle into a particular power and cadence. And then I'm going to ask you guys to look away from the screen or shut your eyes for the last 30 seconds or the last minute of the effort, so that way you guys can focus on riding by feel. If you don't have power output on your bike at home, no problem. Focus on the feeling of the cadence. If you're able to keep your cadence steady and consistent, then you know that your power output will be steady and consistent, because we're not doing it on a course. It's going to be on a steady flat course, if you will. So that's what we're going to be focusing on today, guys.
Yeah. Mali.
So fantastic. Do you have any advice for our fellow riders? Well, perhaps can't hear.
Sorry, Mark, can you say it again?
I was talking to Sam. Could you hear me? Perhaps not. Someone who just joined in. Okay, guys. So in 20 seconds, and we have another guest that just joined in, Nick. Hey, Nick. Thanks for joining in. Much of the hard work that's done behind the scenes on CPX is done by Nick. So all you guys can thank him for all his hard work in preparing a lot of the software platform with us. All right, guys, so let's go to 60% watts. So those of you that have power output, let's get to 60% watts. Let's get to about 90 RPM. For the remainder of our warm-up, we're going to be pyramiding up and pyramiding down the cadence so that you guys are ready for the higher RPM efforts and lower RPM efforts that come in drill number 1. So our first effort now is at 90 RPM. Then we're going to go to 100 RPM. Then we're going to go to 110 RPM. Just get the legs spinning right away early in the workout. The power output for the next 3 minutes or the next 2.5 minutes now is 60%. So we're just going to be spinning the legs at progressively higher cadences without increasing the power. So that means you guys are going to have to go 1 or 2 gears easier when we get to the end of each minute. And those of you guys that don't have power output, just focus on a pretty comfortable effort at 60% watts, 4 out of 10 effort perhaps, but really work on that pedaling skill, work on the leg speed. All right, guys, so 1 to 2 gears easier, and let's bring it up to around 100 RPM. Okay, good. And now we're just trying to get some leg speed going. So the next one's going to be at 110 RPM. Some of you guys that may have done some of the earlier PowerWatts home workouts have heard some of the high RPM cues. Those of you that haven't, I'll give you a couple little tricks. The first trick that you guys could do to facilitate higher RPM is to slide forward on the saddle just a little bit. A second little trick that you guys could do is you could take your foot and you can dip the toes down just a little bit. That gives you better access to the top of the pedal stroke and the bottom of the pedal stroke to pedal more circularly. And the third trick is to imagine like there's a magnet between the bottom of your butt and your saddle to really reinforce that connection between your butt and the saddle. So let's try some of those tricks here for the next minute. It's not high power, guys. It's just high cadence. We're going to go up to 110 on the RPM, scooch forward a bit on the saddle, dip the toes a little bit. You might think more about kicking over the top of the pedal stroke or sweeping through the bottom of the pedal stroke. And a way to reinforce that magnet between your butt and the saddle is to tuck your bum a little bit like a scared dog. That activates some of the core muscles that'll pull your hips down into the saddle. So good riding at the high cadence. Looks like everyone's pedaling pretty fast on the bike. Another thing you guys can think about is disconnecting your upper body from your lower body. You want to keep that upper body nice and steady because your hips are firmly down into the saddle. I'm not seeing too much bouncing from anybody, so everyone's doing a good job. Okay, so next up, we're going to be going down to 85 on the RPM, 70% watts. So up a little bit on the watts, level of effort maybe from a 4 to a 4.5 or 5, but let's bring that cadence down. Now we're going to be doing a progressively lower cadence pyramid. Okay, so now the next little bit, we're at 70%. We're going to go 85, 75, 65 on the RPM. And I want all of you guys to stay sitting for the duration of this exercise. As the RPMs go lower and lower, some of you guys that like to stand up, like Sandman and Dennis and Miss Piggy, you might have the urge to get out of the saddle at the 65 RPM, but I want you guys to stay sitting so that we work a little bit more strength-oriented pedaling. So we're going to be going from 85 RPM down to 75 in a few seconds. Okay, so 10 RPM change, so 1 to 2 gears harder. So here we go, guys, 75 on the RPM, 70 on the percent. Okay, good work. Still, those of you guys that have power on the RPE should be a pretty comfortable RPE. If you don't have access to a cadence sensor either, no problem. Just pedal a little bit slower than you normally would. Brenda and JF, you guys might want to go 1 gear harder, just looking at how fast your legs are spinning on the screen. There we go, guys. Okay, and then the last piece, we're going to go to 65 RPM. So some low RPM techniques. There's 2 of them. Well, there's more than 2, but 2 of the main ones that are used is to slide backwards on the saddle a little bit and focus on a fuller extension of the leg. Sometimes dropping the heel a little bit can be helpful. So we're about to go to 65 RPM, guys, so another gear or 2 harder. So you may choose to slide back on the saddle a little bit and get a fuller extension in the leg. Or an alternative option is to actually slide forward on the saddle like you would at high cadence, but you make sure that your weight falls into the pedals instead of gripping onto the handlebars. So you slide forward on the saddle and just let your weight fall into the pedals. That's really helpful for lighter riders to get as much body weight into the pedals as they can as well. Okay, so we got another 20 seconds at this low RPM condition, and then we have a big swing in RPM. We're going to be going from 65 up to 90. So 90 is going to feel like a high RPM now because we've been grinding at 65 for the last little bit. So a couple of quick gear shifts. 3, 2, 1, and up to 90 on the RPM, guys. And now we're at 80% watts. So in terms of RPE, maybe 6.5 on 10, maybe 7 on 10 if you prefer to pedal that slightly lower on the RPM. So solid riding here, guys. Now the last 2 segments of our warm-up, we're going to be going to 85% and then to 90% while increasing the RPM like we did earlier. So we're going to go from 90 RPM to 100 RPM to 110 on the RPM. And then this is going to bring us to the end of our warm-up. And Big Daddy wants to wish everybody that you have a great workout. So let's go to 100 on the RPM, guys. So Big Daddy just chimed in from YouTube Live. He wishes all you guys a fantastic workout today. But unfortunately, Big Daddy doesn't have a bike or trainer at home to join us. But he wishes you all well. Are you sure you're at 100 RPM, Dennis? Yeah? Okay, good. So we got another 15 seconds. Then we're going to go to 110 RPM. It's only for 40 seconds at 90%. Now think about those high RPM cues, guys. Slide forward a bit on the saddle. Dip the toes down a little bit. Reinforce the connection between the butt and the seat. So 3, 2, 1, and here we go. 110 on the RPM. If you have no power, bring it up to a solid 8, 8.5 out of 10. The butcher dumped a water bottle. You can take the water in a moment. So keep that leg speed going. 90%, 110 on the RPM. Good way to be, Big Nick. Well done, J-Train. We got Dennis really spinning fast. Sugar, Sammy down in the drops. Fantastic. Sylvie getting that leg speed going. Mean Gene spinning the legs. Brendan, JF, well done, guys. The Sandman shirt is off. It's gotten serious here, folks. The timing is good because the warm-up is done. All right, guys, so back it off. So 2.5 minutes of recovery after that warm-up. So depending on how comfortable you are at the different cadences, that may have ended up being a little bit more challenging than you expected if you're only comfortable in a very narrow cadence comfort zone. And if you are comfortable in a narrow cadence comfort zone, that's okay, but it's worth exploring techniques to increase that cadence comfort zone. And that was the purpose of PowerWatts home workout number 1, RPM Mania. So if you haven't done that one, give that one a shot. Nice practice. So ladies, you might not want to look too close at the screen because Dennis has taken off his shirt as well. And we know how distracting a sight that can be. Okay, so we're looking good here. So now our first drill, we're going to do 4 times 4 minutes. And the 4 minutes, the first 2 of them are going to average out to 85%. The second 2 of them are going to average out to 90%. So the power outputs are in that endurance development zone. But here's where we're going to contrast on this exercise. On the first one that we're about to do, the RPM is going to be steady. I want you guys to stay as close to 90 RPM as you can for the whole 4 minutes, but we're going to vary the power up and down. We're going to go 80%, 90%, 75%, and 95%. It's a party at Guillaume's house. Look at the lighting he's got going there. Amazing. And then our second 4-minute effort, we're going to keep the power consistent in that one at 85%, but we're going to vary the cadence up and down. And you guys will be able to contrast which one you find easier, which one you find harder. So Guillaume's going to be really partying on this 4 times 4 minute drill here. So super job, Guillaume, on your setup. Very nice. So we're about to get started in 30 seconds. And our first one is going to be at 80%. Our first minute, I should say, is going to be at 80%, somewhere between 85 and 95 RPM. Aim to get as close to 90 as you can. And then you want to keep your RPM as similar as you can for the entire 4 minutes. Even as the power goes up and down, you adjust your gears to try to keep your RPM the same. All right, guys, so everyone build up a little bit of momentum. Get to 50, 60, 70%. Get to around 80% now. So 3, 2, 1, and here we go. Now, when you guys start an exercise, it takes about 15 or 20 seconds for your speed to settle in. Until your speed is settled in, you have to play around with the gears to get as close to 85 to 95 RPM as you can. Now, whatever RPM you settle in at, say it's 86 or 88 or 93, whatever it is, great. Then try to keep that RPM for the entire 4 minutes. So when the power goes up, you'll have to go a gear harder. When the power goes down, you'll have to go a gear or 2 easier. And we're trying to keep the cadence consistent. And we'll see how you find that in terms of perceived exertion. So everyone's underway here. We got Olivier back on the bike with Miss Piggy and the professor. That must be a fun room down there, guys. So 10 seconds. We're going to go up by 10% watts. And we're going to try to keep the RPM the same. If you don't have a power meter, just go 1 gear harder and focus on keeping the cadence the same. And that'll more or less recreate an increase of a couple percent on there. And Sugar Sammy, try to bring that RPM up just a little bit. Maybe you're going up a hill or something, so just try to tweak the RPM, get back to about 85 to 90 on the RPM. Want to be as consistent as possible. We got Mean Gene down in the arrow position, getting extra speed for the effort. Okay, so we got another 25 seconds here. Then we're going to go from 90% down to 75%, but same cadence. So you guys are going to have to go 2 gears easier in order to sustain the cadence while bringing the power down. We got the Master of Pain back on the bike.
Was connection.
Connection issue. Well, I'm glad you're back in, Master of Pain.
Yeah.
So 3, 2, 1, and 75 on the percent. Tweak the gears to stay as close to 85 to 95 on the RPM as you can. Now, something that's key when we're riding at endurance development powers like this is you want to try to find ways to make it feel as comfortable as possible. Sometimes when we go to those anaerobic powers, you're waiting for it to get uncomfortable to know you're getting the training effect. In this kind of training, your goal is to make it feel as comfortable as possible by staying relaxed in the neck, face, shoulders, elbows, focusing on a steady breathing rhythm, not varying your breathing rhythm substantially because we're keeping those powers in the endurance zone. So I just want you guys to think about that while you're riding. Your goal is to get to the power and the cadence and find a way to make it feel as comfortable as possible. So that might mean small positional adjustments on the bike, or it might just mean a change in mindset about the effort. All right, guys, so now we're going up to 95% and up to stay at about 90 on the RPM, or whatever RPM you've been using at this point. Try to keep it the same. If you don't have a power meter, make sure that you're in a harder gear than you've been to this point, trying to keep that same cadence in order to maintain that power output. And we got Big Nick and J Train looking good at the 95%, around 90 on the RPM. Big Nick, you've improved your cadence work here. So let's keep it up another 30 seconds. We got Sister Love now down in the arrow position, just like Mean Gene. They're going to be cutting the wind like a hot knife through butter. When it's time to ride outside, you guys are going to be ready. So we got just a little bit longer, and then we have a 1 minute recovery. So on the 1 minute recovery that we're going to do, back it off, guys, but don't stop pedaling completely or anything. Just ease the watts down. The recovery is more just to reset and reflect on the drill we just did. Okay, so let's back it off. Now just think to yourself, especially those with power, how difficult that 4 minutes just was on a scale of 1 to 10. So now we're going to do another 4 minute drill that has the same average power of 85%, but we're going to fluctuate the cadence instead of keeping the cadence steady. So the cadences we're looking at, we're going to start at about 85 RPM, then we're going to go to about 95, then down to 75, then up to 105. Some of you will find it more challenging to vary the cadence this much, whereas others will find it more comfortable because it allows you to change body position, change pedal stroke technique more often. So we'll see which each one of you thinks about that. So we're going in 15 seconds. So take a look at your watts if you have it. Start building it up to 85% and about 85 RPM. And if you don't have access to power, let's see an RPE here of 7.5 out of 10 or so on this first one. And if you don't have power, when we go to the higher cadences, just go a 1 gear easier without trying to exert more force into the pedals on this one, because we're trying to keep the power consistent. Okay, so settling in around 85%, around 85 on the RPM. Now a little trick, what I mentioned earlier, when we do endurance powers, you guys want to find ways to make it feel as comfortable as possible. So one of the things is if we go to a high cadence and you're naturally not comfortable at high cadence, just make sure that you keep your breathing under control. You don't want to start to breathe fast just because you're pedaling fast. We're keeping the same endurance power. So keep a nice consistent breathing rhythm here, even though we're about to go to a slightly higher cadence. Okay, so we're looking at 1, maybe 2 gears easier. So 3, 2, 1, and here we go, 95 on the RPM, roughly anywhere between 90 and 100 is good. Good riding, guys. JF, you got a great cadence going on there. Master of Pain in the arrow position. We got the Butcher going well here. The Sandman spinning the legs. I'm sure you're keeping an eye on Dennis too, eh, Sandman?
It's hard to focus on Dennis with the shirt off.
Oh, yeah. Don't look directly. He's from Greece, you know.
There's a lot of skin on Zoom today. I like it.
Yeah. I'm trying not just to stare at the Butcher's chest the whole time that we're doing it. Okay, guys, so now we're at 95 RPM. We're going to go all the way down to 75 on the RPM. So that's a 20 RPM change. So that's about 4 gears harder. Okay, so get ready, guys. 3, 2, 1, and progressively harder gears. That's similar on the power output, similar on the RP if you don't have access to a power meter. Now, this is definitely on the lower side of the cadence. So you could try the lower cadence tricks, like sliding back on the saddle and fully extending the leg, or sliding forward on the saddle and falling your weight down into the pedals to see how that feels. You might have the urge to get up out of the saddle, but I encourage you guys to stay seated for this effort. Okay, and now we're going to be doing, or in 30 seconds, we're going to be doing our final minute of this 4 minute effort. We're going to be going from 75 RPM up to 105 RPM, maybe even 110 RPM if you guys want. So a shift of 30 RPM. And so that's going to be multiple gears easier, or you can go from big ring to small ring. Going big ring to small ring usually adjusts your RPM by about 25 RPM. So that's another option you have. So here we go, guys. Same power, but let's bring that cadence up around 105 on the RPM for the last minute. Brenda, go 1 gear easier. Yeah, there you go. You're getting there. Very nice, indeed. Sugar, Sammy, great cadence. Well done. Sister Love and Paulo really spinning the legs. Well done, guys. Big Nick, I don't know if I've ever seen you pedal so fast. We got the master going. The Butcher keeping the upper body nice and steady. That's great work. Miss Piggy, Professor Olivier, well done, guys. Try one gear easier, Professor, just for fun. So we got 20 seconds left, then we have a 1-minute recovery. Now think about your rate of perceived exertion, your RPE right now. How does it compare to the previous 4-minute exercise? Easier, harder, or about the same? And we'll discuss what that means in a moment. So we're almost there. So 3, 2, 1, and 1-minute recovery. Great stuff, guys. So keep pedaling. Just ease the effort down a little bit. And now we're about to go into our next 4 minutes. So think back of the first one. So by show of hands, who found the first one to be harder? And who found the second one to be harder?
First
And
one.
who found them to be about the same? The butcher. The butcher, Miss Piggy, Professor Olivier. Okay, so if you guys had a little bit more difficulty with the variable cadence, that's a sign. Now, naturally, things tend to be a little bit harder at the high RPM, but it's also a sign that it's worthwhile practicing extending your cadence spectrum so that you can be comfortable in a wider range of cadences. When you're outside, you can't stick to one cadence. You got to work through the spectrum. So let's try it again. Similar exercise, but slightly higher power targets. So let's go to 80%, 90 RPM. So the next 4 minutes, we're going to be at 90 RPM all the way, or 85 to 95, we'll say. And we're going to vary the power 80 to 100 to 85 to 95. Okay, so the power is going to go up and down. The overall intensity of this drill is about 5% higher than the previous two that you guys did. But we're still in endurance mode here, guys. So find the body position, find the pedaling technique that feels the most comfortable for you to try to get through this drill without seeking to make it more difficult than it needs to be. And so we have some YouTube comments. I'll mention those in just a sec. So we got another 10 seconds here. Then we're going to be going up to 100%. If you don't have access to power, try to keep your cadence about the same, but go 1 gear harder to bring that power up. Okay, guys, so here we go. 100%, 90 on the RPM, or as close as you can to previous ones. Cindy, how's it going so far?
Good.
Are you able to follow along well with the RPMs?
Yeah, the only thing is it kicks a bit later.
It keeps, sorry, could you say that again?
It kicks a bit later. So I have to do a few seconds before the RPM adjusts.
On the RPM.
Yeah.
So Mean Gene, yeah, there you go. Go gear easier. So Big Nick, J-Train looking good. Sugar Sammy, how you doing?
That's good, but I'm coming on uphills.
Oh, you're coming up to some uphills?
Yeah.
Well, think of it as an advantage. Maybe go down the small ring a couple gears easier. You could probably take away those hills. You might be able to put yourself just on a steady flat road for these cadence conditions. Okay, guys, now we're going down to 85%, but same cadence. So 90 on the RPM. Good. So Sandman, Dennis, Guillaume, all you guys are looking good here. Paulo needs to towel off. Must be building up a sweat over there. So Miss Piggy, Professor Olivier, how you guys doing? Good. You guys, are you guys on Zwift or are you just on a regular trainer? Regular trainer, do this. Okay. So do your best to follow along with the power and the cadence based on the RPE numbers. So we're at 85%, 90 on the RPM. So next up, we're going to go to 95%, trying to keep the RPM the same. So that involves, if you don't have a power meter, go 1 gear harder and try to keep the cadence the same, and that'll bring the power up just a little bit. All right, so here we go, guys. 95%, around 90 on the RPM. So keep it up, Brenda. Keep it up, JF. Good riding, guys. It's a good opportunity to do a quick spot check. If you've tightened up anywhere, loosen up the face, neck, shoulders, elbows. And JF riding without your hands as usual. Maybe you can make a coffee for yourself and Brenda while you ride. So we got 30 seconds left here, guys. And just take a moment to reflect on the level of effort compared to the previous drills, because we're back to the steady cadence, variable power. We'll see which ones you guys find easier or harder. And we got Nick on the bike now with us as well. And Nick, you're on a regular trainer? Okay, so I'll give you some RPE numbers you can experiment with. So we got a couple more seconds, guys. And then we have a 1 minute recovery. So don't back off completely. Just ease the watch down a bit. Keep a bit of momentum. And just reflect on the level of effort of that one. And now we have one more. So this last one, we're going to do a steady 90%. And we're going to be jumping around on the cadence. 75, 105, 85, and 95. Jay Train, how are you doing so far? Good? Excellent. And Big Nick, how about you?
Whoops, there we go. We're doing great. Thanks, Mark.
You guys got a great setup with 2 CompuTrainers down there. I'm sure you probably have even more bikes set up down there.
No, just tell them.
Yeah. Well, great stuff, guys. So now we're about to start up the next one. 90%, 75 roughly on the RPM. And now this time, the power is going to stay the same and the RPM is going to bounce all over the place. Okay, so here we go, 90% and about 75 on the RPM. So if some of you guys are having an experience like Sid V, where you see the RPMs lag a little bit, or they bounce around a little bit, go by the feel of the gearing adjustment. So what do I mean by that? If you're at 75 RPM and you have to go to 105 RPM, that's a change of 30 RPM. So if you go from the big ring to the small ring, that'll usually change you guys about 25 RPM. So you can go to the small ring in 1 gear easier, then watch the screen, wait for the RPM to catch up and see if that brought you to 105 on the RPM. If you're already in the small ring, if you go 1 gear easier, it usually changes by about 5 RPM. So you can go about 5 gears easier when we're going from 75 RPM to 105 to 110 RPM, and then wait and see on screen if your RPM is a little bit lagging behind. Okay, so here we go, guys. 90%, around 105 on the RPM, so a couple gears easier or down into the small ring. Excellent. We're pedaling fast, but we want to keep that breathing rhythm slow and controlled because we are still at our endurance development power here. JF, really great cadence. Brenda, great cadence. So Guillaume looking good. Well done, Guillaume. I guess the dance party's over, but the cycling party's begun. We got Miss Biggie, Olivier, and the professor with a good cadence. Great focus, guys. Master of Pain, well done. Working that cadence, Master of Pain. Sandman, Sandman, I think Dennis is pedaling faster than you. You better go 1 gear easier. And now we got another 15 seconds, guys. And then we're going to go from 105 RPM down to 85 RPM. So you could go from the small ring to the big ring. That'll get the job done. Or if you're already in the big ring, just go 3-4 gears harder. That'll get the job done roughly as well. So 85 on the RPM, 90 on the percent. Okay, and now something I want you guys to experiment with on this minute and on the next minute is settle in, find that power and cadence combination, and then for about 15 or 20 seconds, I want you guys to look away from the screen and see what happens. So let's do it. We'll do it all together in about 5 seconds. I want you guys to look away for 15 seconds, okay? So settle in. So 3, 2, 1, and now look away from the screen if you have access to power. And now just keep riding at the same rate. And we're going to look back up in 5 seconds. Don't look up yet. Look back up in 5 seconds. And let's see. So take a look back up and see, did your power go up or down or stay about the same? This is practicing some stuff that we're going to be doing at the end of the workout today. Okay? And the tendency is to go too hard when you're not looking at the screen. So keep that in mind. So now we're going to go 1 or 2 gears easier, 90%, 95 on the RPM. Give yourself a good 30 seconds to settle in. And then again, I want you to look away from the screen for 15 seconds. And this time we're going to at a slightly higher cadence. And we'll see if that makes it better or makes it easier or harder for you to stay consistent on your power. Okay, so focus on the feeling of cadence. Focus on the feeling of pressure underneath your feet. Okay, and now Here we go. Look away from the screen just for about 15 seconds. And if you don't have access to power, think about your RPM. Try to keep your RPM as consistent as you can. If your RPM is consistent, your power is consistent. Okay, now look back up. How did you do? Did the power go up? Did the power go down? Did it stay about the same? We're going to be practicing that more extensively at the end of the session today. So a couple more seconds, guys, and then we got a longer recovery period. So 3, 2, 1, and back it off. So well done, guys. So there you go. 4 times 4 minutes of endurance development, contrasting steady power, variable cadence with variable power, steady cadence. Definitely a different feel on each one. So coming back to the question I asked before, if you guys found it a bit easier when the cadence was steady, that's a good idea. It's a good idea for you to play around a little bit, extending your RPM comfort zone. For those of you that found it more comfortable to vary the cadence more often and you had a hard time holding a steady cadence, a trick that you guys could do is even if your RPM is the same, it doesn't mean you have to pedal in the same way. You can stay at that 90 RPM and you can pedal at 90 RPM on the front of the saddle, on the back of the saddle, with your heel down a little bit, with your toe down a little bit. And that will recreate the feeling of changing your cadence even though you don't. So that's a great technique. If you have a hard time holding a steady cadence for a long period of time, don't try to do it in the exact same way. Vary it periodically in your position, and you'll find that steady cadence perhaps gets a little bit easier over time. So Master of Pain, how are you doing so far?
Good.
Good? Are you on a spinning bike?
Yes, yes.
Oh, fantastic. That's great. I'm glad you have one. So are you able, you don't see cadence or anything on there, do you?
No, but I go with my feeling.
Okay, perfect. Good. I'm glad you're going with the feeling.
Even if it's not accurate, I do the change. So the change, it helps. Yeah.
Oh, that's true. That's true. That definitely makes a difference to be able to readjust if there's a change. So now next up, and if a lot of you guys are like the Master of Pain, you don't have access to cadence, the next one, it will be a little bit easier to follow along in terms of the RPM, because we're going to be doing one effort, the whole thing at low RPM, then one effort, the whole thing at high RPM. So the next one we're going to do is we're going to do 1 minute at 90% at low RPM. So 60, 65, 70 RPM to simulate climbing a hill. Okay, so everyone bring it up to 90% and give yourself 10, 15 seconds to settle in, and then take a look at the cadence. And in terms of the cadence, we're looking for about 70 on the RPM. At this point, if you guys want to get out of the saddle a little bit, sure, go ahead. It's probably a good idea over the course of the next 5 efforts to periodically stand up, because we are trying to stimulate some of the demands of climbing a hill. So what we're going to do in this exercise, all right, Sylvie out of the saddle, Guillaume out of the saddle, Nick out of the saddle, Miss Pig and the Professor out of the saddle. So good stuff, guys. So what we're doing in this next drill is we're doing 1 effort simulated climbing, a very short break to reset, and then a high cadence segment, but at almost an active recovery power at like 70%. So right now we're putting in more effort on the climb, and then when this simulated climb is done, we're going to go to an easier gear and spin the legs up to around 100 RPM. Okay, so 3, 2, 1. Now back it off. You don't have to recover completely. You can go right to 70% watts if you want. And now take a look at your cadence. Adjust those gears to get to 100 RPM. So what we're practicing here is spinning the legs after an uphill segment. So 70%, now 100 on the RPM. We're trying to spin the legs and change the muscle groups that are working a little bit here. And at 70% watts, you guys aren't burning matches, you aren't draining the battery or anything like that. So by spinning the legs, hopefully we can circulate some blood and get you guys ready for the next climb. Now, each of the climbs that we're going to be doing, they get 15 seconds longer and they get 5% higher in intensity. So that's maybe 0.25 of an RPE point for those of you guys that are working on RPE. So that way you guys can know that we're building up towards our last one, which is going to be 2 minutes at 110%. That's going to be our 5th simulated climb. Okay, guys, so bring it down. So you got a chance to spin the legs a little bit. So now we're going to go back to grinding 95% and 70, 60 on the RPM. So low RPM. Okay, so here we go. So 1 minute, 15 seconds. And Mean Gene, I want you to stand up at some point for about 15 seconds. You choose. Oh, there you go, right away. Going for the stand-in. Sugar Sammy obviously going up a serious hill right now. Yeah, there we go, Sugar Sammy up out of the saddle. Sylvie up out of the saddle. And Sandman and Dennis and Miss Ping and Professor, try to stay sitting. Try to stay sitting, guys. I know naturally you're going to want to get out of the saddle, but let's save that for a little bit later, especially on the 2 minutes at 110% that we're going to be getting to the last one. Good. Nice standing position there, Sugar Sammy. So Paulo and Kathy, good work, guys. Working that uphill segment. Guillaume grinding the gear. Nick working the low cadence. Good work, the Butcher. The Butcher, are your RPMs low enough? So we got 10 more seconds, then we got a little bit of a recovery period. And the recovery period, guys, don't rest completely. Okay, just ease it down to around 70%. And if you drop below 70%, not a big deal. But then the next effort's at 70% at 100 RPM. So get some gearing adjustments done, and let's get those RPMs nice and high. Okay, so get ready, guys. 70%, 100 RPM, spin the legs in between the climbs. All right, good work. Brenda and JF got the leg speed going. Great stuff, guys. So legs are spinning, just trying to work different muscle groups here. Guillaume's got the legs spinning. Sugar Sammy, cadence back up. Big Nick, J-Train spinning the legs. All right. Master Pain, you can go a bit into a harder tension if you want, Master Pain. You're definitely at over 100 RPM right now. Okay, so keep it up, guys. Well done, Sylvie. And now try to make this feel as comfortable as you can. Slow, steady breathing rhythm here. Practicing those body position techniques. And now let's back it off for 15 seconds. So now we're going to do 1.5 minutes at 100%. Now the goal is again on the low cadence to simulate the climbing. And if you guys want, you can get up out of the saddle on this one. So 3, 2, 1, and here we go, 100%. So now we're passing into a level of effort that starts to drain the battery a little bit. It burns some matches. Doing 1 minute at 100%. For those of you guys that remember the battery at PowerWatts, that drains about 5% of your battery. It's kind of like burning a match. So we're passing from endurance now into threshold power where the fatigue accumulates much faster. So think about the feeling of effort here, guys. You want to become very aware of what it feels like to ride at 100%, because oftentimes when we're outside, we push a little bit too hard, especially on a climb, and then you run out of juice afterwards. Good. Way to be Sandman. Way to be Dennis. Mean Gene working the cadence. Mean Gene maybe stand up for the last 15, 20 seconds. Big Nick working that climb. Very nice J-Train. J-Train maybe stand up for the last 15, 20 seconds as well. Just get out of the saddle for a bit. And Master Pain, I know you like standing, so maybe you'll, obviously I know you find it difficult. So yeah, stand it up. See if you can stand up for the last 15, 20 seconds just to change the legs up a little bit. Brenda out of the saddle. Very nice. Sugar Sammy. Paulo out of the saddle. Okay, so good climbing here, guys. Definitely the RP score is starting to go up now. 8.5 out of 10 effort possibly here, if you're going based on your RPE scores. So we got 3 seconds. So 3, 2, 1. All right, and now let's back it off. So great efforts, guys. So now we're going to be spinning the legs at 70% again. Now this should not feel as hard as what you just did. You want the RP to be lower, you know, maybe a 6 out of 10. The challenge is just to re-engage the faster pedaling muscles here at the slightly higher cadence. So yeah, JF, just get those gears going, get that cadence going. Brenda got a good cadence. Good, well done, Guillaume. Dennis, that's good. Sugar Sammy got the cadence back up. Very nice, Sylvie. Sandman got the cadence going. Yeah, Master Pain, that looks like about 100 RPM now. Sylvia, it looks like you might be at more than 100 RPM. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
So we got 10 more seconds, and then we got a little 15-second break, and now we're going to be passing into the two main efforts of the day where we're extending the endurance into threshold development. Okay, so 15 seconds recovery. So now we have a minute 45 seconds at 105% watts, so over 100%, and at that low cadence again. Okay, so here we go, guys. So about 70 on the RPM, maybe as low as 60, maybe as high as 80. And you want to imagine like you guys are climbing a hill. When we start to get to these longer efforts that are longer than a minute, longer than 90 seconds, it's a good idea to vary the body position a little bit, which could be sit to stand. Yeah, that's one option, but you have other options. You could put your hands on the bar tops for a bit. You could put your hands on the hoods for a bit. You can lean forward to get your weight into the pedals for a bit, or you could sit more upright and take your weight a bit more back on the saddle. Little upper body positional changes the way you feel the musculature in the legs. All right, way to be Olivier, great climbing, Professor, working that low RPM, super job, Professor. JF and Brenda both out of the saddle. Guillaume, great climbing here. Sandman and Dennis challenging yourselves to stay sitting. I think that's fantastic. Good work, Master Payne. Nice body position on the bike there, Master Payne. J Train and Big Nick working to climb. Yeah, there you go, Big Nick. I think your cadence maybe was a little high. Now you're working that lower cadence. Sugar Sammy climbing out of the saddle with the beard. Unbelievable. Well done, Sugar Sammy. So we got another 20 seconds left, guys. So just keep it smooth. Working all the way to the end of this effort. This is definitely a match burning effort. In terms of battery drain, you guys are probably draining almost 8, 9, 10% of your battery for this effort here. So definitely a substantial effort. So all the way to the end, 3, 2, 1, and let's back it off. So 15 seconds recovery. We might recover a little bit of lower power, but now quickly get into easier gears. We got one more segment where we're going to spin the legs here for 45 seconds at 70%. So here we go, guys. 70% and 100 on the RPM. There we go. And give yourself a moment to find out what gear you need, or perhaps you've been coming back to the same gear over and over again. And the Butcher, I'm guessing you're out of sync with the workout. All right. And Master Payne, we got the cadence back up. Good work, JF and Brenda. Guillaume got the leg spinning. Dennis and Sandman, Paulo and Sister Love got the leg spinning. So 10 more seconds here, guys. And then we're going to be doing our final effort where we're going to be pushing a bit here. Okay, so let's back it off. So our last effort, guys, we're starting real soon. So get ready. I want you guys to start it quick. We're going to go to 110% for 2 minutes in a climbing effort. Okay, so here we go, guys. 3, 2, 1, and up to 110%. Good, nice, quick starts, guys. I see a lot of you get out of the saddle to start off. We got Nick out of the saddle as well now. Keep it up, guys. Wow, Dennis and Sandman still seated. Well done, guys. If you want to give a final punch at the later stage of this 2 minutes, go ahead and get out of the saddle. JF and Brenda, great work. Mean Gene working that low cadence. Great effort, Mean Gene. Big Nick and J Train, well done, guys, on the simulated climb. Master Payne working that low cadence. Looks like we got Olivier, Miss Piggy, and the Professor all out of the saddle. So in terms of the RP, guys, you want to probably be at around a 9 out of 10 at this point, and you want to try to keep it pretty consistent at that level for the last minute. If you want to give an extra little push, go ahead and give an extra little push. The last exercise that we're going to be doing is at a slightly lower power, so you can, but don't completely smoke yourself. Aim for good quality pedaling. Work that breathing rhythm, work that force down into the pedals. Get your weight into the pedals, get your strength into the pedals. Nice transition, Sydney, keep that up. Way to be, Professor, down the drops. We got the Professor Olivia and Miss Piggy climbing in the drops. Way to be, guys. Sugar Sammy, obviously on a very steep hill. Keep it up, Sugar Sammy. Guillaume, nice work, Guillaume, working on the climb. So 30 seconds left, guys. I want you to go all the way to the end of this 2 minutes here. Don't slow down 10 seconds early. Every second is new fitness developed here. So a good technique for that is in the last 10 seconds, whatever gear you're in, guys, stay in that gear and just pedal faster. Okay, so do that now. Just pedal faster in the gear that you're in, and that'll take you all the way to the end of this 2-minute effort. So we're almost there. This is the biggest effort of the day, and you guys have done it. 3, 2, 1, and that's it. Wow. Well done, guys. So 2.5 minutes of recovery after that last effort. So Mean Gene, by show of fingers, how difficult was that on a 10-point scale for you? 9? I guess it's hard to see the fingers. Guillaume, it was a 2. Miss Piggy, how difficult was that one for you? Miss Piggy, how difficult with your fingers? A 9 or a 10? Brenda, how hard did you push on that one? 9? Well done, guys. So some really solid efforts from everybody here at home. Great. So that was our biggest effort of the day. We're building up on progressive climbs. On that final climb, 2 minutes at 110% is definitely quite a demanding effort. If we were in studio, we probably would have heard Dennis's adult movie noises during that 2-minute effort. So let's be happy that his mic has been muted. So now let's just quickly go over what our last 3 drills are going to be. The first one is 90 seconds. The second one is 90 seconds. And the last one is 2 minutes. On all 3 of them, the first minute at 90%, I want you guys to focus on your screen, focus on your power output and on your cadence. And then in the first one, that we're about to do, the last 30 seconds, I want you to look away from the screen or shut your eyes or do something not to see the screen. And then I'll tell you 3 seconds before the drill is over to look back up and see if you manage to keep your power and your cadence about the same. The first time we're going to do it at low cadence. The second time we're going to do it at high cadence. And the third time you guys do it at the cadence of choice based on what worked better for you. Now, we do this very well at PowerWatts because you hide the gauge and then right afterwards you see your percent time and zone. It's a little bit harder to do it in this context. But the key thing is when you look up with 3 seconds left, see if your cadence is about the same, see if your power is about the same, and that could tell you that you succeeded on the drill. Okay, so here we go, guys. Let's go up to 90% and 70 on the RPM. The first minute is just a minute to settle in. So if it takes you 20 seconds to get the power and cadence combination, no problem. And then once you got that power and cadence combination, I want you guys to bring your attention to one of 2 things. Bring your attention either to the feeling of your RPM, so how fast your legs are spinning, or bring your attention to the amount of pressure that's underneath your feet. And when you guys look away from the screen, focus on one or the other of those and try to stay as consistent as you can for the 30 seconds. Now, this first one's at low cadence. Some of you might have a better feel at low cadence. Some of you might be worse, but we are going to try a higher cadence right after. So we'll be able to contrast the 2. Okay, so get ready, guys. So bring your attention to the cadence or the foot pressure. Okay, and 3, 2, 1, and look away from the screen. So just look away from the screen, guys, or shut your eyes. And then we're going to look up in just a sec. Sandman Big Daddy says you look tired. So keep going, guys. Don't look at the screen yet. Focus on the sensation. I'm going to tell you when to look up. And when you look up, see if your power and cadence stay about the same. Okay, guys, look up. What are the numbers looking like? Were you able to stay consistent? And back it off. Sylvie, how did you do on that?
Harder.
Yeah, so the power went up when you weren't looking at the screen?
Harder. My RPM was higher.
Was
Yeah.
higher?
Yes.
So let's try it again now, Sevilla, and we're going to do it at 100 on the RPM, and we'll see if that is easier or harder for you. And we'll see if it's easier or harder for everybody. So now we're going to go to the higher end of most people's RPM comfort zone, 100 on the RPM, and then 1 minute to settle in, and then 30 seconds with you guys looking away from the screen again. And then we'll see which one works better for the two of you, because on our final effort, it's going to be a whole minute without seeing the screen. So we're going in 10 seconds, guys. So start building up the power, start building up the cadence. So definitely a bit higher on the cadence now. All right, very nice. Okay, and so those of you guys that don't have access to power, focus on the feeling of the cadence or the feeling of the foot pressure. Even though you won't have feedback about how you perform, really focusing on the effort will help improve your feel. There's different sensors located on the bottom of your feet and in all of your muscles called proprioceptors that monitor where your body is in space and the level of exertion that you're putting out. So just the fact that you're focusing intently on it will improve it, even if you don't have access to feedback right now until we get back into our PowerWatts studios. Okay, so settle at 90% and 100 on the RPM. Focus on the feel of the leg speed or the feel of the foot pressure. Okay, and now we're about to go hidden. So 3, 2, 1, and look away from the screen, guys. And you want the level of effort to stay about the same as well. If you start all of a sudden panting and difficulty, that means you're probably going a little bit too hard. Okay, so nice work here, guys. Really focus on the effort. Think about the pressure underneath your feet. Nick really grind. Nick, you must be going up a hill or something there. So a couple more seconds, and then we have a 1 minute break. So look up, look up, look up. And how'd you guys do? Was it better? Was it worse? Was it about the same?
Same.
Some of you have a better feel at low RPM. Some of you have a better feel at high RPM. It's not good or bad. It's just what happens to be natural for you. And now for the last one, to try to set yourselves up for success, it's a whole minute without you guys seeing the cadence, without you guys looking at the screen. So choose the power and the power is 90%. Choose the cadence that work best for you. So if you're really comfortable at the 70 RPM, maybe choose something between 70 and 90 RPM and settle in there. If you're really comfortable at 100 RPM, choose something between like 90 and 100 RPM and really settle in there at 90%. And this is our last effort of the day, guys. The goal is not to smash the last minute here. It's to try to be as consistent as you can on the effort. Okay, so here we go, guys. 90% watts per minute. You can choose the cadence. If anybody wants to try the whole last minute standing up, go ahead. You could try that as well. Make sure that you've had an opportunity to settle into it before you try it. But I mean, before you look away from the screen. All right, so good stuff, guys. And I can see some of you are already practicing looking away from the screen. It's a good idea to look up and down a few seconds, just get a feel for it. Really think about that foot pressure, the feeling of cadence. Good work, guys. Well done, Professor Miss Pink and Olivier. Okay, so now really internalize the sensation of effort. So we're about to do the last minute, and let's see how consistent you can be. Let's imagine like we were doing a blind time and zone segment. I know that motivates you, Gene. So get ready, guys. Look away from the screen. Look away from the screen. And what we'll do is about 30 seconds in, I'll tell you guys to take a quick peek. That way you can adjust up or down if you need to. And then we'll look away from the screen again until there's only about 3 to 5 seconds left. And even if you don't have access to the power and the cadence, focus intently on the feeling. Activate those proprioceptors in your brain and your body. Okay, so just take a quick peek, guys. Take a quick peek. How you doing? You have to adjust up or down, so make whatever little adjustment you need to do. Okay, now look away until the end. Focus on the feeling of effort at 90%. A very important power to learn the feeling of. I'll tell you why when we're done. So 10 more seconds. Good work, Sugar Sammy. Keep it up. Okay, guys, and take a look up to see how you did before the watts reset or anything here. All right, and that's it. So back it off, guys. So we got a little bit of time to recover. So fantastic. So an effort like that, we do it often at PowerWatts, hiding the screen, because we want you guys to learn to internalize the feelings of these powers. And a power like 90% is really important to internalize, because once you start passing 90%, if we think back to the battery that we use a lot at PowerWatts, when you guys get to like 92, 93, 94%, you start to drain the battery. So if you get a good feel for that power at 90% and you know you have to ride for a long period of time and you don't want to drain yourself, you wouldn't want to go higher than that 90% effort unless you needed to because there's a big headwind or there's a hill or something like that. So very valuable power output to learn the feeling of. So great ride, guys. So fantastic work. So super job, Dennis. Paulo and Sister Love. Way to be, guys. Guillaume, great effort here today. Big Nick and J Train. Fantastic. Sugar Sammy, you did a great job. You got some extra climbing in today, Sugar Sammy. Brenda and JF, so great that the two of you guys joined. Great ride, guys. Mean Gene, great effort today. Sylvie, super job. Glad you're able to join in. And then we got Olivier, Miss Pig, and the professor. Fantastic work today, guys. And the butcher, I think, is still on the workout.
Well, I'm just cooling off now.
You're cooling off now. The butcher.
I was a minute and a half ahead of you guys. I'm not using
a minute and a half ahead.
Just
like outside, you don't wait for nobody, right? The butcher.
No, I used the wrong software. Next time we train the road, it's easier to sync, I think.
The Sandman, great ride today. Thanks for joining in. Now we got the Master of Pain. Is that now you're on your road bike, Master of Pain?
Yes.
Great job, Master of Pain. Thanks for joining in. Nick, thanks for jumping in onto the bike. It's great to have you participate. And Cyril, back on the video. Thanks for tuning in, Cyril. You got to see some of the West Island riders. You met some of them that one time you guys came in. Some of you guys might remember when Cyril came to PowerWatts once. He's from PowerWatts Geneva.
I have to say, I remember the name of. I remember the name of Miss Piggy.
Yeah.
Hi, Miss Piggy.
Easy one to remember.
Okay, no, it was great to be there on the very first live PowerWatts class. This was a historical moment. So thanks to let me join.
Oh well, thanks for joining in, Cyril. So so it's the first time we did this, guys. So if any of you guys want to unmute your mics and let us know what your thoughts are, I'd love to hear. Sugar Sammy, what did you think today?
That was great. I did it yesterday too.
Oh, yeah. Just like you normally do. You like those back-to-back workouts, eh, Sugar Sammy?
I'm a little concerned about Sandman.
Oh, really? How come?
Well, he looks disheveled. The shorts are half off. It's like it was too hard for him.
You know it gets serious when he goes to only the one suspender. Sydney, I guess your hair is still in the wind. You know that makes me happy.
like at PowerWatts, Mark. Much better with you, Mark. I love, I'm not a fan of Swift so far, but when you're there, it's much better.
Well, thank you very much, Cindy, and it's better for me when you're there. And Brenda and JF, how did you find it?
It was nice to see you guys.
Yeah. It was great to see you guys too. Did you lock the family up in the basement so no one distracted you?
We put the food out and let them have it.
Oh, okay, perfect. Brenda and JF have a really full house. Mean Gene, how did you enjoy the ride today?
Well, I loved it, Mark.
Oh, yeah. And was it easy for you to follow along with Zwift and with the riding, or were you on Zwift at the same time?
I was on Zwift at the same time, and it was really parallel, so it was great.
Okay, fantastic. So
and with you guys there made me work harder.
Yeah,
I didn't cheat.
Oh, maybe, yeah. Oh, that's great, Mean Gene. I'm really glad. How about you, Big Nick and J Train? How did you guys enjoy the ride?
That was fantastic. Again. Nice to see everyone, and thanks, Mark. It was super.
Oh, my pleasure. And were you guys riding off of your Garmin's today, or were you using Zwift?
Swift.
Zwift, and was the timing of everything okay?
Give yourself 5 to 6 seconds before the start. Speak with you.
Okay, so it was off just a bit. And how about you, Miss Piggy, Professor Olivier? You guys enjoyed the workout? And I guess you guys are on mute still. Well, so great job, guys. Oh, are you unmuting? No volume.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Oh, and we got the dog. We got Brenda and JF's dog there.
Oh, look at Harley.
Say hi.
My teddy bear.
Harley, come.
You hear it, Mark?
Oh, and Paulo and Sister Love, how did you guys enjoy the ride today?
You hear us, Mark? You hear us? You hear us?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So it was a great ride, except my wife Kathy was really distracted by all the topless men.
Oh, yeah.
She wanted to be
Topless men.
You know, in the West Island, it's just men with their shirts off constantly. It's really hard to concentrate for anybody, really.
Mark, are you going to be doing more of those?
Yeah, we're looking at doing this more regularly. Now, the thing I want to tell you guys about the next time that we are going to be doing this is going to be this coming Wednesday at 12 at noon. We're doing it at noon because we have some people from Europe that want to participate as well. We're going to be doing the PowerWatts Pro Challenge, where we're going to be doing 10 30-second efforts, and we're going to be taking your average watts from those 30-second efforts, converting it into a point score, and letting you guys know how you score in terms of your ability to repeatedly do 30 seconds 10 times in a row. And if you're interested, you can see how you score relative to some of the pro riders. Big Nick and J-Train tried the workout for us, and Big Nick came surprisingly close to getting the same power output as Dan Martin.
Wow.
The difference being Dan Martin weighs much less, so his watt to weight ratio is much higher, but it's interesting to see when you compare on the absolute wattage scale, Big Nick's brute force was able to get pretty close to Dan Martin. So congratulations on that effort, Big Nick, and congratulations to J-Train for taking up the effort, because the 10 times 30 seconds is quite challenging. So if any of you guys want to participate, that's going to be Wednesday at noon. We're going to do it in a similar format like this. And we're going to release a little bit more information about the event on Monday so that you guys are aware of what the workout is. If you want to prepare for it ahead of time, you can do the PowerWatts home workout number 6 that has 10 30-second efforts built into it at a progressively higher power output each one, so you can learn the feeling of it. And even if you don't have a power meter, even if you don't have a cadence sensor, even if you don't have Zwift, if you want to come participate and do 10 hard 30-second efforts, there's a tremendous fitness development benefit that you guys will get, even if you won't know what your exact score is. So everyone is welcome to join that. I'll be sending out an email to all the PowerWatts West Island riders, and we're going to have information on PowerWatts International social media, so you guys can get on Facebook or get on Instagram to stay in touch about what we're doing. And also, if any of you guys are interested, Paulo tomorrow will be doing an interview with one of our heroes from PowerWatts West Island, Mike Woods. Paulo and Mike Woods are going to be doing an interview together, so we're going to learn a little bit more about Mike Woods, a little bit more about his training. Some of you might know he was injured recently. We're going to learn a little bit about his recovery. So if you guys want to watch that interview, it's going to be on Facebook and Instagram tomorrow. So that'll be a good thing to watch for those of you guys that like to learn more about professional cycling and the life of professional cycling. And Miss Piggy just put in a chat. Let me see. Miss Piggy, can we do another ride like that? It was so much fun seeing everyone. Absolutely, Miss Piggy. We're gonna start to this. We can make this a regular thing until we're all able to get back into the PowerWatts Westbound studio. Well, thanks for joining in, guys. If you had any additional comments and you want to shoot me a quick email or something like that, please do, because I always love to hear from you guys.
Do you read your emails, Mark? Or we send it to Alexis?
You might want to send it to both of us.
All right.
Well, so thanks for joining in, guys.
Thank you.
And I look forward to seeing you guys again soon on Zoom riding the PowerWatts bikes. All right. So take care, guys.
Take care, guys. Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.
Ready to leave?
Nico.
You keep waving, Master Payne.
Yes, I'll keep pedaling. I'm gonna
I'm
run
glad
now.
you're still pedaling, Master Payne. And Mean Gene getting in some extra mileage, fantastic.
I am. We're going to do another half hour.
I got
And,
started
I
late,
got
so I need to
to
catch
see
up
Harley.
now.
It was nice to see Harley too. I saw him. I wasn't able to mention it because I was talking to somebody else.
Oh, that's okay. He's great.
Yeah.
Ride outside today.
You're gonna go. Yeah, it's a great day to be riding outside. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put an end to the meeting, guys, so I can stop the YouTube live segment, and I'll be seeing all of you again real soon.
Thank you, Mark.
Take care, guys.